What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be doing a clutch change on my 2012 Camaro SS, and we're kind of just jumping right into it. So I forgot to film the first part where I pulled the transmission out and pulled the clutch, pulled the exhaust, drive shaft. So basically what we've got now is I'm waiting on the flywheel, some clutch lines, and then just generally waiting for that to get delivered so I can hook everything back up and put it back together. But while I was waiting, I went ahead and did a little modification of the transmission and painted it red, white, and blue because extra horsepower, why not? Also, while I was waiting to get my flywheel and other parts in, I went ahead and redid the pilot bearing, the rear main seal, and then I went ahead and put a new rear main seal cover seal. We have two 10mm bolts down here at the bottom for the oil pan bolts. They go up into this rear main seal cover, and then you have 12 what I believe to be 10mm, yeah. So you have 14 10mm total. You got the two long ones going into the rear main seal, and then 12 around the outside. And we already have the new pilot bearing in place, so we need to replace this rear main seal, and that's our next step. All right, so covers off. Now what you want to do is go ahead and clean the entire mounting surface, get rid of any debris, any dirt, any oil. Your next step is going to be to spray this off with brake cleaner, wipe everything down, try not to get any on the pilot bushing, and then check your edges, like your chamfer around this crankshaft. And if there's anything like right here, a little rust on the edge, you can feel, take your nail along it. If it catches, you're gonna wanna take a little piece of sandpaper and just knock that down so it doesn't cut your seal. After that, you're going to take off some of this old RTV that's on there and then reseal everything. Moving over to the bench, we got the old gasket that we have to peel off. Kind of hard to do it with one hand, but regardless, peel this gasket off, and then you're going to want to take some brake cleaner and the abrasive side of a sponge, paper towel, whatever you got, and run along this edge here and clean everything up. You might be tempted to use like a metal gasket scraper, but stay away from that because you don't want to gouge the surface. You could use like a plastic scraper. You might be able to use one of these interior trim tools that's kind of messed up. You just kind of run it along there and knock everything down. And then down here in the corners, if there's any RTV, you want to be sure to knock that out. And then after we get this cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and remove this rear main seal. So this is about as good as we're going to get. It's all scrubbed down, brake cleaner, the surface is cleaned up, but you're not going to get this stuff out unless you resurface it because that's all stained into the metal, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just go for the stuff that like you can feel running your finger down the mounting surface. So now, removing this rear main seal, there is a little lip right there that you can fit a flathead down into. Let me find mine. Once you locate your screwdriver, you're gonna just go ahead and insert it into there and kind of pry up. After a little bit of prying, I found that on the back side, you can kind of wedge your screwdriver in between this lip right here and just kind of rotate, and it makes it easier, but it is pressure fit in there, so it's pretty tight. But once it comes out, you'll get something like this. You'll have oil inside that you're gonna need to do the same process as before, you know, abrasive side of sponge, brake cleaner, whatever you need to clean that oil up. But if you did it right, you shouldn't have any burrs or gouges inside this rear main seal surface. So just a paper towel and brake cleaner knocked off most of the oil you just seen. I feel like it's dependent upon what your situation was before. Mine wasn't leaking before. I'm just changing it since I'm changing the clutch, so it didn't really take that much to clean up, but I'm still gonna hit it with that abrasive side of the sponge right here to see if I can knock any of that off, just to try and get a better surface to seal on, because it is all the way around. But if it doesn't come off with just a little bit of elbow grease and brake cleaner, it's probably just a stain in the metal. So what we're doing now, we just placed the new seal. So this side is going to be your up side, and this side is going to face the motor. So it's already pre-greased, you know, whatever. It does install dry. So you want to drop it in there and make sure it's centered. You just kind of feel around, and then you want to find something flat, like a piece of metal stock, wood, whatever you have. Set it on top and evenly hammer that in there until this rubber gasket seats up next to this metal lip on this cover. So this is kind of hard to record with one hand, but we have the seal sitting in there flush. I chose a piece of brick because that's really all I could find, but it's sitting in there level. And what you want to do, watch as you tap, and then just so we've moved down a little bit. Go ahead and check the other side. It's still even. So, yep, everything is still even and flush going in. So we're gonna go ahead and put it back on there because it's not flush with the lip of the cover. If you're in the right spot, you'll know the seal is installed correctly if the rubber does not go up past the metal lip. You can also flip this around and look up into the edge, and if you see any metal where the rubber gasket is not completely seated, then you need to tap it more down in that direction. But if you're looking like this and everything is flush and seated flat, you're ready to install it back on the motor. We have a delivery, and I have my little helper here help me unbox it all and help me carry it in. We've got the flywheel, clutch lines, everything that we need to reassemble. So we'll go ahead and get that moved in. We've got the flywheel. We've got the transmission line connector that I broke off trying to get this clip out. If you know anything about these clips, I'm sorry. That's all I've got to say. But we've also got the clutch and pressure plate over here with the alignment tool. We've got the transmission line I was telling you guys about earlier, which I believe is actually the one that feeds into that. I could be mistaken. And then we also have the line that comes off of the slave cylinder and a new trans mount. Flywheel's installed. I cleaned the back mating surface that connects to the crankshaft with brake cleaner and some paper towels, and then I sprayed that off with air. But now what we've got to do is use this ARP Ultra Torque Fastener Assembly Lubricant, and you're going to put some of that just on the edge of this bolt here, and then you're going to put red Loctite, or put that on your threads, and then you're going to go ahead and tighten them all to hand tight, and then torque to 85 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern. So we have the flywheel down. All 6 ARP bolts are torqued to 85 foot-pounds with Loctite, and then we went ahead and cleaned the flywheel surface, and now we're moving on to cleaning the pressure plate and getting ready to install the clutch and pressure plate. So what you're gonna do when you go to put this clutch in is you're gonna put your clutch alignment tool inside of the clutch first, and then you're gonna pick that up by the clutch alignment tool and put that into the pilot bearing. And that all that's gonna do is keep that centered right there while we put the pressure plate in. And your pressure plate is gonna go right over top of this and bolt down. So we've got the clutch on, clutch alignment tool in the middle. That went up over top of that. And then you've got your 2, 4, 6 bolts that hold it in. You're gonna go hand tight on those and then torque them down. So it's the next day. We are finished with the car. The trans is put back in. All the electrical connectors are connected. The lines are hooked back up. The clutch has been bled. The only reason I did not film all of that is because I can't film myself putting the transmission in with one hand, jacking it up and trying to get it in and put the bolts in at the same time. But anything past that point, all you really do, if you don't already have your slave cylinder on, is you just put the slave cylinder on, bolt it down, connect all the lines, and then as you're jacking the transmission up into the car, you're gonna wanna get a ratchet strap or a hoist or a cherry picker and lift that front of the motor up just to get the right angle to get the trans to sit up against the motor flush so you can get those bolts in. I think there's 8 bolts on the bell housing, and this is what it's gonna look like after you get everything. So, as you can see, my exhaust is back on. The transmission is in. The lines are connected. The cross members bolted up and torqued. Don't know how well you can see that. So one thing about the internal slave cylinder on the TR6060s is it is stupid hard to bleed. We had to get an 11mm shallow socket and drill it out because the shallow socket wasn't deep enough, but the deep well was too big to fit in between the trans tunnel and the bleeder valve. So we went ahead and drilled that out, put the socket on the ratchet wrench and just cracked that loose and pumped it until the air came out. And that's basically all you're gonna do because you cannot fit a wrench in between the trans tunnel and the bleeder valve. We're gonna go ahead and fire it up, make sure everything's good. We did change the oil, resealed that rear main seal, put the RTV on the rear main cover seal, so we just wanna fire it up, make sure there's no leaks, everything's good. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do now. And that's going to be most of your procedure for the clutch change on this 2012 SS. I know I did a lot off camera, but those are the main points you're going to want to hit. Really, the clutch change is going to be normal between all cars that are rear wheel drive. You're going to drop the trans, pull the clutch off, put everything back on. But I tried to make sure to get the little things that really make the bigger difference when doing this clutch change. And now after changing it, we won't have any problems with it slipping or just generally not holding the power. So after about 1,000 miles of keeping it under 4,000 with a lot of stop and go, a lot of upshifts, a lot of downshifts, letting it slip, just breaking it in, we'll be ready to rip on this thing again. So that's going to be about all I have for the clutch change. If you guys like the video, go ahead and like and subscribe to see more videos. I do have a review of the Camaro, the noises it makes, POV driving, the whole 9 yards coming very soon. So make sure and stick around for that.